deserve the best. With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
Tonight, tune to Fox Business on SiriusXM for the second Republican presidential primary debate. Live from the renowned Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. The economy, healthcare, foreign policy, social issues. The candidates take to the stage to share their insights, vision, and plans for the nation. Get an unparalleled opportunity to assess the candidates with Fox Business. Your front row seat to the second Republican presidential debate. Tonight, 9 p.m. East, Channel 113.
Imagine a long road trip where the designated DJ isn't forced to flip from station to station, avoiding commercials and trying desperately to find a signal, where you're not forced to resort to endless rounds of the license plate game to kill time. Stop imagining and start listening to commercial-free music from nearly every genre, coast to coast. Subscribe to SiriusXM, and your music stays with you wherever you hit the interstate or take the back roads. Call 844-711-8800 to activate your radio now.
Hang on Hits 1. As it was. Is it as simple as we think it is?
It's probably the most representative of where I was at in my life when I put something out.
The world needs Beyonce and Lizzo together.
Like, Beyonce has all the control in that dynamic.
It's about damn time.
Hear intimate, exclusive interviews anytime and anywhere.
Just search Hits One-on-One on the SXM app.
Included with all trials and popular plans.
To hear Hits One, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or head to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
Comedy Central Radio, Laugh USA, Raw Dog Comedy, more exclusive comedy.
Netflix is a joke.
What are you barking for, right? 10 hearts, laugh out loud. I'm telling you, people, you're funny on the radio.
More classic comedy.
Comedy greats.
More down-home comedy.
Jeff and Larry's Comedy Roundup.
And more stuff you can't hear anywhere else.
She's so funny on SiriusXM. Comedy by women.
To hear the SiriusXM comedy channels, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
There you go now.
I think I'm
Oh, that's it. There you go now.
I think I'm
Oh, that's it.
You deserve the best. With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly and activate your radio. If you haven't subscribed to SiriusXM yet, you're missing out on over 140 channels of sports, news, talk, and entertainment, plus commercial-free music. Get play-by-play from your teams, your favorite music, commercial-free, and personalities like Howard Stern, no matter where you live. Unlock it all now. Activate your radio by visiting www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now.
And the riffs. That define a decade. A channel with non-stop pop anthems from the 2010s. The 10 spot, Channel 11, and in the SXM app, included with all trials and popular plans. To hear this channel, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or head to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
Netflix is a Joke Radio is on Sirius XM. Wall-to-wall comedy clips from Netflix's exclusive and unparalleled library of top comedy specials. Plus, comedians Tom Papa and Fortune Feimster hang out with all their comedian friends on What a Joke.
What a Joke is the name of the show?
Weekdays at 10 a.m. East.
I like the name, yeah. All right, good.
And Are You Still Listening? A monthly Netflix stand-up showcase hosted by Taylor Tomlinson. Tuesdays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. East. Netflix is a Joke Radio. To hear Netflix is a Joke Radio. Activate your radio. Calling 844-711-8800. Go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
Rondo Deportes. Bonjour. Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe on 28 podcast application. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! That's a speech I'm going to hear at the Republican convention tonight on Fox. I want to give that some praise. Today is a beautiful September 27th. What a great day for a bike ride along the river. Give that some praise. I love bike riding along the river. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 28 podcast applications. I want to give them some praise on Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Good Pods, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast on Gene Saban out of London, England, as well as India and Africa, Podtail, YouTube, Hopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line. I love Radio Line, Replot Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Prodigy, Podcast Republic. And I'm going to tell you, there's one that used to scare me, but now it doesn't. It's called allfees.ai. Give that some praise. The robots are taking over. Some people even voted that robots would be good enough to drive cars. We don't need people to call autonomous cars. We need people to stay in those driving seats, if that makes sense to you. I want to tell you, I always, on Big C Sports Podcast, I produce the show. That's #1. #2, I direct the topics. #3, I broadcast all the shows. #4, I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our life. I know I can. And then I'm telling you, the commercials are done. I'm the only sports show in the universe. I do all my commercials pre-roll, if that makes sense to you. And then I'm telling you, the stats provided, the storytelling. I do the play-by-play. Runners on first and third. It counts for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep. Right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep, if that makes sense to you. Then the show's uploaded to 28 podcast platforms all over the country, out of New York City. And I'm in Demdale Hills, California, #10. I never missed a show since doing Big C Sports back in the days of Salem Media. Really do appreciate that. I got a show that's going to be a little bit different today. I have a special guest coming on, but I want to make sure I give out the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then he said, let there be light. Some people get it twisted, if that makes sense to you. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got a great guest coming on to the show today. I rarely have guests, but I want to bring in a gentleman by the name of Ali De Sousa. Very smart, erudite, a brilliant man. He's done so many great things in life. And I want to just tell you, the quintessential Renaissance creative, the son of Cabo Verde, Mr. Ali De Sousa, what a brilliant man. He graces both sides of the brain. He uses everything. His authenticity, he's poignant, he's impacting, his storytelling. Enough! Let me hear from the real Mr. Sousa. Okay. You'll get to hear from him coming up. I'm going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, you can hear from the real Mr. Ali Sousa. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 28 podcast applications all over the universe. And I want to tell you, I'm streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. Really do appreciate that. Now, I was telling you back my problem with the man. I have the quintessential Renaissance man. He's creative. He's a son of Cabo Verde. His name is Mr. Ali Sousa. He graces both sides of the lens with authenticity. He's very poignant, impacting storytelling, and an upcoming independent filmmaker. We got so much stuff to talk about. We've talked about, since I talked to you last time, Mr. Sousa, we've talked about reparations. That's happening with the United Nations and also Georgetown University. Even Senator Marco Rubio, he's down in Florida, but he's in Congress now trying to get more reparations for descendants of Holocaust survivors. And then you and I talk about athletes all the time that make a lot of money, but they rarely talk about anything outside of their contract when they come on. Sir, welcome on to the call today.
Hey, thank you so much, Big C. Big C, Big C. I'm happy to be here with you again. The Big C, man. I like the lingo. I'm on with the Big C, and I'm Ali G.
We can do a rap group, right?
There we go. I have no hip-hop ability whatsoever. That's not one of the talents I got.
All we got to say is reparations now, reparations forever. That's going to be my rap song coming out, but I really do appreciate you and coming back on. You know, I was talking about some things that happen in the world of sports, and also right at the doorstep of talking about sports is this thing called reparations that President Abraham Lincoln talked about with the Emancipation Proclamation. Now we have the United Nations saying that we deserve reparations in the United States. Also, we have Georgetown University. They've taken 272 descendants, and they're proposing over $1 billion for the descendants of slavery that helped build Georgetown with the help of the Jesuits. I think there's 27 Jesuit universities in the United States. But you grew up in Boston. Give me your thoughts on reparations compared to how you grew up in Boston, where it was very segregated, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Yeah, I was born in Boston. I actually grew up on the South Shore and Cape Cod, but it doesn't make a difference. When I finished high school, and I immediately never wanted to go back to the town that I grew up in.
Really?
The number of muggings and beatings is so funny because my 50th reunion is coming up on October 7th. And the number of muggings I beat and I enjoyed by my classmates, including spraying the wall with the epitaph "nigger" in the front of the school wall. I mean, it's stuff from teachers and everything. It was the most, I still believe the Northeast is probably the most racist place in this country still today.
Wow.
At least in the South, you know who your enemy is if they want to be racist against you. In the North, smile on your face all the time, taking your place.
Yeah.
You know that old song?
I know
and
it.
It's sad to say, I have good friends. I have good friends who were Caucasian, still from those days. But it was so vicious that no matter what you did and how you excelled, you couldn't be accepted. You know, I had so much excelling in school because I think it was my way of protecting myself, trying to cover for the fact that it was miserable.
Yeah.
And but when I went away to the University of Massachusetts, my first year of college at Boston, they literally had to have the National Guard put us on, when we got to the South Boston station.
Really?
We got on buses, mate, and the National Guard put us on the buses, and still those South Boston people attacked the bus and rocked the bus. But this was how I went to school my first year of college. After 3 semesters of that, I couldn't take it anymore. I was supposed to break down a number of guys. I got a number of young men getting pushed on the third wheel and the tracks. They were just murdering. Nothing was done about that.
Wow.
That was a hobby for the South Boston gangs to do. And then one time I was on campus, and because I was involved in media routes and theater routes and things like that, I got stuck and missed the bus. I have never been so frightened in my life. I thought I would die. I didn't know what to do, where to hide out, where was I going to stay. And fortunately, there was a South Boston guy who was in my acting class.
Yeah.
And we kind of had bonded a little bit. He goes, look out for you, man. I know why you're frightened. He said, but you can't stay on campus. It's more dangerous. I'm going to go to a party. Come to the party with me. I go, where's the party? He said, the North End. I go, you're taking me out of the frying pan into the fire.
Wow.
What you do in the North End is totally, oh, no, you can't bring an eggplant up there, man.
Wow.
What are you doing?
Wow. Ali, let me ask you, what year are you talking about, though? Because some people, this might be news to them. I know it's not news to you, but what year were you at UMass?
I went to UMass in 1973.
Okay, so right out of Jim Crow then, when they were having all the busing issues and people didn't want to have they didn't want to have integrated neighborhoods in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
No, they did not. And I mean, the neighborhood that I grew up in, every time a so-called person of any African ethnicity, because there were Cape Verdeans, West Indians, African Americans, every time someone moved in, it was also they moved out because they thought it was considered a suburb that, a quote-unquote, these people shouldn't be in houses, right?
Right.
But they picked the wrong people because these people were tight. Every time they moved out, some white neighbor moved out, they called someone, had a friend came and move in. So we had a little like, I don't know, 10 or 12 house square on this street called Salem Street in Rockland, Massachusetts. And it was a ghetto, but it was all like nice, small, modest homes, and it's tree-lined street and the whole thing like that and everything. Yeah. Still, there was so many. The racial tension was high. Even when George Wallace ran for president, he drove down that street just to be antagonistic, but that was a mistake because there were teenage boys too. I was younger, and those teenage boys surrounded his bus and rocked his bus.
That is incredible. You talk about 1973, Ali, and then when Bill Russell, which really is the most famous Bostonian that's won, at least as an athlete, helping win, I think, 11 NBA championships in 13 seasons. And that was in the 60s, mostly in the 60s. But he even lamented that he was loved when he had that uniform on and he played on that parquet floor with the Boston Garden, the Leprechaun. They loved the great Bill Russell. We even have the NBA championship trophy named after the great Bill Russell. But when Bill Russell lived in Boston, he had the same experiences that you talked about when he did not have a uniform on, please.
Absolutely. And there was a young man who came as a rookie for the Celtics named Dee Brown.
Yeah.
And he signed a big contract. And he was in Wellesley, Massachusetts, in his Mercedes with his fiancée. There was a bank robbery, and the Wellesley police pulled him over and drew the guns on them. People can Google it.
Wow.
Dee Brown, 1990. I mean, he almost lost his life.
And the wrong identity, the wrong person, in the wrong place at the wrong time. But how can you be in the wrong place at the wrong time when you're living in a free country, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave? And had he been wearing a uniform, had he been wearing a Boston Celtic uniform, then maybe that would have never happened. They would have asked for his autograph. Does that make sense?
It's so insane. So it's been determined that the people of significant melanin, no matter what the shade, it could be even a fair shade, you have a certain place within the society, even to today. And when you step out of that place, then it's a problem.
Yeah, I wanna just finish with just edifying you, because you're great at storytelling, and as a filmmaker, you're willing to ask provocative questions, which is what life should be about. And when you look about asking a provocative question, I want to grab your thoughts on, as an intelligent, you're very smart, erudite man, but also I believe you said you went to Rockland High School over in the Massachusetts area, and then
on the South Shore of Massachusetts, just north of the Cape. It's the gateway to the Cape Cod. Yeah.
Now, I want a lot of young black men to listen to, and white men too. And you told me that you ran a 4.4 40-yard dash back in the day. That would be the late 60s, would that be? Late 60s, early 70s?
That would be late 60s, early 70s. I was consistently running a 4.5 something, but then one practice, I remember my buddy came over to me, his name was Mark, and he ran track too, because he's like 2 hours away from me.
Yeah.
They were Canadian African folks who had moved down here, and he goes, brother, you just ran a sub 4.5. I go, what? So he says, he goes, yeah, you just ran a sub. So I led it in track. I played some football, but mostly I ran this track.
Yeah.
I decided to be involved in academics and things like that. But it was because, and people asked me how can I do it, and my friend Mark said, "How do you do this stuff?" Because I wasn't a super buff guy. I had rickets when I was young, so I had my growth spurt after high school. So I was around at that time like maybe 5'5.5", 5'6", 140. I graduated at 5'7", about 170 pounds, and then went away to college and came back, 5'11 and a half, 6 feet, 210. That's when my growth spurt came. But I played sports and stuff and things like that, but even then I knew about vibration frequency because I never felt like I was running. I felt like I was flying.
Let me ask you, let me touch on that, Ali, because let me just finish edifying. Your father was from Cabo Verde, and your mother from St. Kitts in the Caribbean, and your grandparents also different cultures and ethnicities. And then when I think about you and talking about the diaspora of Black Americans, running a 4.4, that's a little bit close to what Deion Sanders was accused, allegedly running about a 4.3, 4.2 somewhere. But I want to ask you, when it comes to vibration, you're been a filmmaker, you're an educator, you're philanthropic, very smart man. When Deion Sanders, and we talk about black men running 4.4, every college coach is saying, what school does he go to? Because they want to recruit you to come to their school. Not to talk about being erudite, not to talk about being learned, but to see if we can make you bigger, stronger, and faster. Can you kind of speak it's always just your opinion. In your opinion, running a 4.4 back in those days is like running a 4.2 in today's days. What was it like for you, or say a Deion Sanders, what he's going through with the national media? They want to know about how does Deion shine so much. He was an All-American at Florida State. He played offense, defense, special teams. He's played for the Atlanta Falcons, become a Pro Bowler, the 49ers as a Pro Bowler, the Cowboys as a Pro Bowler. He ended his career with the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens, but he also played Major League Baseball. Now he has a chance to coach, but before coaching at Colorado, he was at Jackson State. Before that, he had to take a job in high school. As an All-American Hall of Famer, he could not even get an opportunity to coach college football because it was focused on he runs a 4.2 and a 4.4. Talk about how he's had to vibrate to go from just an athlete to what he's doing now.
That's a great question, Big C. Very good question. First of all, I'm nowhere in the category of Deion Sanders. I think it was just one time my friend told me, I never even went to look at the clock. He said, I said, you just broke 4.5, but I do know. I said, wow. But I do. And I started off as doing cross country. I had no affinity to be a sprinter, but someone clocked me on the final stretch of the cross country. The high school coach when I was in middle school and realized that this dude is really fast. He's running at 4.40, crazy. Let's get him to sprint. But more importantly, this idea of vibration and frequency is where we need to, I believe, approach our lives from. That's where I approach my life from. Because I remember those, I don't want to say feelings, I don't want to think emotions as sensations. I never really felt my feet touch the ground. I had this ability to, and trigger my athletic prowess whenever I wanted. There was a time, my brother David, he'll listen to this tape, but he was a track guy at UMass. He went there as well. And he's more of a distance runner, but he had good speed. So one day at a family get together, my father's house was on a dead end road. He challenged me to a race. Who
won that race? Tell the truth. Who won it?
He'll tell you I dusted him. I told him, and I ran barefooted. I said, David, this is disrespectful. I'm in my 30s. You're a star on a college track team. You challenged me from the whole family to a race. And my father looked at it, shook his head, and said, no, don't do it. But he did. So we went out. They set it up. And I told him, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get out of the blocks ahead of me by 2 steps because I'm not even getting down. I will catch you within 10 yards. When we hit 40, it's going to be goodbye. And that's exactly what happened. He was so upset with me. He challenged me to another one. He said, dude, I'm older now. I'm in my mid-30s back to back. What are you doing here? You know what I mean? So he did. I beat him again. He was so proud with me. He said, let's do it a third time. I still beat him, but it was a closer race.
A little bit closer that time.
That was the only antagonistic moment. We were the closest brothers. That was the only antagonistic moment in our whole life where he challenged me in front of the family. But the point, the reason I tell this story, and David will tell you, but we have this frequency connection because that's how he learned about it. He said, how do you do that? I said, because there's something else where you can just command from the universe, and I just ask for the power and I get it.
That's something, what you're saying, a lot of people might call that a spiritual or a meditation or meditating or visualization. But there is something that you notice also, Mr. Ali, talking to Ali de Sousa, a philanthropic, a filmmaker, just a very erudite man. When people talk about vibration, you notice how before a football game kicks off, you have the teams hyping each other up, they're jumping up and down, they're patting each other's shoulders, they're hitting each other in the head. Is that a form of vibration that you're talking about that we can also use in everyday life?
Absolutely, Big C. I'm so glad you grabbed it because so much of the culture is around sports.
Yeah.
And, any athlete can tell you, even Ali talks about it when he had the fight against Foreman.
Yeah.
He saw the mantra, Ali Boombaye. I think we mentioned it last time we spoke.
Ali Boombaye.
Ali Boombaye. But everybody was chanting by the tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
He harnessed all that vibration and took the power of George Foreman and just wore that dude out. And when we got ready, he took that and just knocked him out like he was nothing. It's one of the most amazing feats. But he was a metaphysical guy. He understood metaphysics and all those things. I just loved Muhammad Ali like many people. He was a brilliant, brilliant man. And he was trying to teach about those things.
Yeah.
And here in the 21st century where we're living in a country that's going, in a world that's going to chaos. People want to be reactionary. We need to elevate to what I call the quantum being level, where people are dealing from the frequency and vibrational level, and then life becomes limitless.
Yes, that is
really
powerful.
Does.
That's powerful.
And so that's what I'm hoping, to share with the world through my books and stuff and my films. I've just penned a book that's gonna. LA Tribune Press has agreed to publish it.
Okay.
It's called The Integrity Trinity. Because as I thought of.
Can you say that one more time? Say that one more time for people that want to buy it.
Well, it won't be out to 2024, but it's called The Integrity Trinity. The Integrity Trinity, and then a year later we're going to do the film based on the book.
Okay.
But it's a different kind of book. It's not a fictional book. It's a philosophical social book on what society needs.
Yes.
And if I look at the world today, and particularly here where I live, what I see is a complete lack of integrity at the highest levels of power. Not just one man. You start looking across the board.
Yes.
It's not like that. And I can think back to the time where I was in my development years, with all the racism, all the prejudice, there was still a lot of integrity.
Yes.
And there were plenty of people that I met who were Caucasian, who really meant to me and pushed me along because of the integrity that they had.
Yeah.
So if there's one word that has happened, is lack of integrity across the board, which has turned a competitive society even more towards just being a complete pernicious society. It's just completely predatory throughout the systems.
That's something I want to commend you on that, because oftentimes when it comes to sports, it really does bring people together. No matter what part of the world you're from, people love the thrill of victory, and people hate the agony of defeat, but it's something that we can all relate to. And when you talk about the vibration, and you have people that are white and black that helped you along the way, I think when it comes to... And I want to go back to the thing with Deion Sanders and you, both very good athletes. But now, a man that's accomplished so much, it's like some people want to see him fail, and maybe that's part of human life. But just like yourself, going from being a great athlete to now filmmaker, writer, author, he had to make some type of transition. And what I don't want to get lost in the sauce is for young black men that see someone like Deion Sanders, or like yourself, or even myself, don't just see us as an athlete, but how do we take that vibration and make it something that we do on a daily basis? I know you said it, but can you say it one more time?
Well, there were things I talked about from the ancient traditions, from the motherland, which was practiced across the Americas, too, from the native cultures, and that is sun gazing. The sun literally charges the melanin in our bodies. No matter your shade, it charges. We're electrical batteries. Look it up. And it charges that melanin. That melanin is like the God particle. It tunes you to the highest levels of existence.
Wow.
It's a connecting piece of consciousness. And the more you do something, like an athlete who keeps practicing the same thing,
yes.
Because repetition is an immutable law of the universe, you must repeat.
Yes.
That's the work part involved. But then you just know how to turn it on. It's something that you cognitively doesn't happen, but it happens at a spiritual and conscious level, and it goes.
Yes.
But you worked it out. You develop that, like have that muscle, so to speak. Like Tiger Woods had played golf for 20 years before he turned pro,
yes.
and he came on this kicked everybody's butt.
Yes.
Like, And so, some of the Williams sisters, their father trained them very young, and now we see how all the young people who model at the Tiger, no matter what their ethnic background, they're amazing golfers. So golfers, they're super cool sports, super competitive, because one person broke through the barrier. The last time we spoke about breaking the 4-minute mile, and how everybody breaks it.
Bannister,
And so it's the same thing when people understand that their consciousness and their subtle self that we can't describe so well cognitively is their real power. It goes beyond the vessel, the mortal cloak that we're in, its shade, its muscularity. That's all great. But it goes beyond that. Because if you look at a guy like even Mike Tyson, he was a good-sized athlete, but compared to who he was in the heavyweight division, he was small. Everybody towered over him. Man, they had nothing on him until the one time he came in lazy, and that guy knocked him out.
Buster Douglas, Buster Douglas.
Buster Douglas.
But
the
I
guy
think
who should have never been in the ring.
I want to say that Buster Douglas, I watched that fight, they gave him 12 seconds to get off the mat, though. Even though I think Tyson beat him, but there was shenanigans going on in that. They gave that brother 12 seconds to get up off the mount. But at the same time, talking again to Ali de Souza, author, film writer, philanthropist, very intelligent, I call him the erudite man. You talked about vibration. You're erudite, so don't try to say you're not.
Okay, I accept the sentiments. Namaste, ashe.
But I want to ask you something, because tonight we're having a Republican convention, and it's going to be on Fox News, and there's a big story that just happened with the United Nations. There was an article sent to me by O. She's a national correspondent for the National Black Wall Street Project, and it's about reparations, and it's happening in our country as we speak. And just recently, the United Nations, they said that reparations for descendants of African or chattel slavery is due, and they call it reparatory justice. I doubt if we'll hear about that with the Republican speech tonight. I hope we do. Also, Georgetown University, right there in the heart of Washington, D.C., not far from where the Emancipation Proclamation was first read. They're pledging $1 billion to 272 descendants of Africans that helped build Georgetown. And then as we are breathing, you're breathing right now, aren't you, Ali? Are you breathing?
I'm certainly breathing.
I'm breathing too. Now on April 18th, 2023, when people say, oh, slavery happened a long time ago, we have United States Senator Marco Rubio. Now, maybe he didn't run a 4-4-40, but Republican out of Florida, Jackie Rosen, Democrat Nevada, Kevin Cramer, Republican North Dakota, and Senator Rick Scott, Republican Florida. They are reintroducing the Holocaust Insurance Accountability Act, and that is legislation. Now, Ali, this would allow beneficiaries of Holocaust-era insurance policies to bring civil action to United States district courts against the insurers for the covered policies to recover proceeds due or otherwise enforce any rights under the policy. How is that happening as we breathe, yet our Republican brethren, they're not even talking about reparations, that slavery happened 1619 to 1865. Hitler was only in power in 1933 to 1945. How are we missing the conversations around reparations for descendants of chattel slavery?
Brother, there's several reasons. First of all, I'm absolutely glad that's happening. I'm glad that's happening, you know.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful thing. Make no mistake about it. And I've often said, even some time back, when the topic of reparations comes up, why is the Japanese get reparations? The Bosnians get reparation. Why is everyone getting reparations for these horrific things, but the African persons, even here or in Africa, because what's that guy? Leopold was worse than Hitler. I remember Africans he just slaughtered. Why is there no reparations whatsoever? As a matter of fact, some of the European countries like France are getting reparations from Africa as we speak. As
we're breathing.
And trying to threaten them because they said, we're going to get rid of you now. You got to go. We're not going to use your currency and we're done with you. You know? So that's an interesting thing to posit. When we look at reparations here, I really have something to say that I may get chastised for, but I look at the civil rights machine in America.
Yeah.
And that's the NAACP. That's the Urban League.
Yeah.
Like right now, when this thing happened with Marco Rubio, great. Why haven't they got a campaign going right now?
Amen.
Because now's the time to get them on and say, look, you're supporting these reparations. Here's a similar thing.
Yeah.
You know what? Aetna Insurance, New York Life, I can name you like a half a dozen insurance companies, 50 overall, who've actually apologized for their part in slavery and using slaves to build their companies. This is a matter of record. You can go on Google and just say 15 companies that supported slavery, and you'll get a big articles on it. And these companies have apologized for it.
Yes.
But the apology didn't turn into what? Remuneration or reparations, so that the descendants of the kidnapped refugees, I don't like the word slave. They weren't slaves. They were kidnapped, stolen, refugees, a land they did not know, and they were the most horrific and heinous brutality was used to force them to do the work. And the audacity for them to say, trying to say that they got DeSantis, that they learned skills. They didn't learn skills. They developed the skills because those people who were beating and brutalizing and raping them and murdering them and maiming them didn't do any work.
No.
Didn't know how to work. That's why they were using slaves.
Yes, that is so powerful. Ali, I appreciate your brilliance. And the same way that you and I are having a conversation, we're no better off than anybody else in our position. We have access to media, access to filmmaking, and we're intelligent. That's why we can talk about this stuff. It doesn't mean that we're the brightest bulb in the package, but we're very attuned to using our platform to talk about real things. And I take some criticism at times. I've taken a lot of arrows with my platform because Big C Sports, I have more platforms than anybody in the country. I don't make more money than anybody in the country because there's a different system behind it. But I want to ask you something, and I've taken criticism for this. Big C, why do you talk so much about politics? Just talk about sports. I would feel like I'm insulting my ancestry if I did that. So what type of vibration, and not to call anybody out, but just to kind of have a roadmap. Like I learned so much from Double O, a national correspondent, National Black Wall Street, on research and documentation beats conversation. How can we gracefully encourage our other black brethren, and white too, to not be afraid to talk about what you just lamented as we are breathing? Right ahead, please.
Big C, that is a beautiful thing that you're expressing, and hopefully people can hear this show. But there needs to be concerted effort, and then I'm gonna look at the mechanisms that are in place.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have so many successes in certain industries, music, sports, and in business as well. But there are some industries where it's just so predominant, right?
Yes.
And people have a voice, but look what happened. LeBron holds his voice. He was so shut up and dribble,
right,
by that barely intelligent lying person on a certain network who really has no sentience going on as far as I'm concerned.
That network got sued for $1 billion, I believe, for lying, if that makes sense to you. Allegedly.
Yeah. So, so people can be timid, but I can't believe among a people collectively, even though they're from various ethnic places in Africa that have become amalgamated into what I call the kidnapped generational Africans of America.
Yeah.
These refugees who are still refugees here. I cannot believe that the big mechanisms for civil rights haven't figured this out. Like, hold a summit for the athletes.
Yeah.
Hold a summit, get them together. Your power is amazing. Your voice and your platforms are amazing. And address issues on a consistent basis, not because Colin Kaepernick kneeled and, they did something with the NFL, blah, 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 but they ostracized the guy out of the league. He still got the same treatment that Muhammad Ali got at his peak. Okay, you're not going to follow the line? We're going to strip you during your peak years.
Exactly.
The same thing is still going on.
Yes, and I agree with you. We had the Cleveland Summit back in the day with Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown. I think Harry Edwards was there, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there. There were several other athletes too. But this is an appeal to our white brethren, like Senator Marco Rubio, because they're out there making sure that a certain group of people get paid. And we applaud that. We're not knocking that. United Nations, they're pro-reparations for descendants of chattel slavery because black has no standing in court. You got to be called descendant of chattel slavery. So if we can throw a softball, some people don't like playing fastball baseball, but as a softball, kind of a handoff on the 1 yard line, if you don't fumble, you're probably going to fall in the end zone. What will it take for our white brethren and the decent ones, like you said, that helped you growing up in Boston, the power structure, and Georgetown is not a black institution, and they're saying, you know what, reparations are due to descendants of chattel slavery. United Nations is not a black institution. They're saying, you know what, reparations are due for descendants of chattel slavery. How can we get that message out there more than, oh my God, look how big and strong this guy is. I can't believe you think that guy's faster than this guy. Does that make sense to you?
Exactly. That means that within our own communities, the various ethnic groups among the African refugees here and those who immigrated here, like my family, these have to have a higher level of conversation. The conversation that's just what happened about race creates conflict. But that's because people admit that there's race when there is not.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as race. The race is when we get 4-5 and the 4-4s and now the 4-3s and the 4-2-3 dashes. That's a race, right? But there's no human categories of race. We know through our DNA and breaking the genetic code, there's no such thing.
Right.
So why are our paradigms within our social structure still based on that? So you need to have those conversations, and some of the leadership need to do that. But for myself, what I'm getting ready to come back out on the speaking platform. I've just been asked to be a keynote speaker at the next it's a Think and Grow Rich Summit for Napoleon Hill, the people who do that stuff. They've actually invited me to be a keynote speaker at the next summit on October 14th to the 16th.
That's beautiful.
And my whole thing is I'm talking about the integrity trinity. So when people have that integrity, that's something some people can grasp. Then their consciousness arises, and some people will act. Some will hate it in the heart, but some will want to put their hand on it and they will act. So when those conversations become mainstream without you're a racist and you're a bigot, you did this, look, we all know the history, mate.
Right.
You know? The question is, how do we move forward? And to move forward with integrity means you make things balanced. You repair the harm.
Yes,
that's what our justice system is about, right? Repairing the harm.
Yes.
That's what lawsuits are about. So how can you not repair the harm to the people who were so instrumental to build this nation? And I want to give you this little fact. I know we're probably over time, but please permit me.
Sure.
Some years back, I was doing teaching at a charter school.
Yes.
After school program. They asked me to do debate. I debated through school, so I said, sure, I'll come and debate. So we took on reparations as the subject.
Yes.
So this was probably 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Okay.
And well, in the research, what we did is I said, let's find out. And I was guiding the children, the youth. And I said, let's find out. At Jim Crow, at the end of slavery, let's look at the economics of the Africans who had been freed.
Yes.
At that time, the research said that they controlled about 19% of the gross national product. Now, I have not done this recently, but at a time about 9 years ago, no, it's not that long, it's less than that. Let's say 7 years ago.
Okay.
The research showed that with all the affluence and the money and all these big contracts with the sports and all these endorsements, still, the same ethnic label group of people only control 19% of the gross national product. Therefore, there has been no progress.
No progress, yeah. No progress as a collective. So that's a very good statement that you just made, and I want to ask you, because I want to go into overtime with you. Sometime, the game goes into overtime because someone scored and someone forgot to have 10 men on the field. And they should have had 11, but they had 10 on the field, like Notre Dame, Ohio State. And how did Ohio State win that game with 1 second left? And then it comes out Notre Dame only had 10 players on the field. So at the same time, I want to just touch on this with you because it's so important, and I wish I had more time with you. We got to vibrate higher as a society where we're not afraid to have the most intelligent, the most erudite, the most brave people to stand up and use our pulpits to speak. If some of our brethren, and I'm not just making it about black men and women who get an opportunity on TV, they may get pulled off the air. It's about reaching the decent white people who control these networks to say, you know what? President Abraham Lincoln, he was right. He wasn't wrong. It was black soldiers that helped the Union win the Civil War. And that are we supposed to get 40 acres and a mule? And the Emancipation Proclamation, it didn't end slavery. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. But we were supposed to get paid as a culture, and we never did. And I just wrote a letter today to Senator Rubio's office in Washington, D.C., and also Rick Scott in Washington, D.C. They're going to get letters from the National Black Wall Street Project to ask them about what can you do to help champion reparations for descendants of chattel slavery too. We got to get people to vibrate at that level and not see us as different. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And so the conversation, even amongst our communities, and the rhetoric needs to change. And the word racism is the trigger word.
Yeah.
It's gotten lost because everything is racism or you're a racist. Everybody's using it. The meaning has been obscured. The real issue is a matter of where is your humanity?
Yes.
Where is your integrity?
Yes.
You're sitting there. You want to get reparations for a group who so deserves to get those insurance policies paid.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But you don't want to pay the people who their physical life was used and insured to be abused.
Wow.
This is oxymoronic.
Yeah.
So there should be an effort. Al Sharpton, he's got a platform. He's a big civil rights icon now.
Yeah.
He's getting paid. That's great. But Al, if you hear this, someone gives you word of it, you are an organizer. You need to be out there organizing, talking to Senator Mark Rubin, saying, well, you're doing this.
Yes.
And why not this? When your governor is saying he wants to say that black people got benefit and learn skills from being slaves.
That's crazy.
I mean, how can these two things exist in the same place?
I know.
It's amazing.
I know it. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, whose family owned slaves on both sides, he says we shouldn't have to pay reparations for something that happened 150 years ago. And they're right now, as we breathe, making sure that descendants of the Holocaust survivors are getting their compensation. I want to just make you one more statement before we head out. This was sent to me by 00, national correspondent of the National Black Wall Street. People can Google it. It was President Biden's Executive Order 13985. It was not an emotional speech like, I have a dream, like Dr. King's speech. But on his first day in office, he signed Executive Order 13985. It was January 20, 2021. He didn't talk about football, basketball, and baseball. He talked about advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's reparations. But we're coming up on the next election, about 13, 14 months away. What role will the thought of reparations play as the next president, whether it's Joe Biden or anybody else, as they're asking for our votes, black and white? They cannot ignore this anymore. They cannot ignore what the United Nations is saying. They cannot ignore what Georgetown just did. I think other universities like UMass will follow, like Texas and also Florida and Georgia, Kentucky, etc. What can they say about reparations and make sure that people understand we got to vibrate and say this is the right thing to do?
And this means that people who have those abilities, who are asking questions through media outlets.
Yes.
I think we have a lot of podcasts out there. Even we can get to like maybe Midas Touch Network, those three brothers. They do a great job. TYT. We need outreach to those organizations, even, as well as mainstream. Say, start asking the question all the time.
Yes.
It should be a question that's always asked.
Yes.
It should be, what about reparations for these people?
Yes.
Now, we know what we call the MAGA group, how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
So we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
It's very clear where they're going to be. It's very clear the authoritarian fascist agenda that they're on. So ignore that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rubio just made a step that's a powerful step.
Yes.
He's joined by a bipartisan group.
Yep.
That needs to be followed up on. So Mr. Rubio and all the other senators, why not this? What are you saying about this?
Yes.
And if they call up something hypocritical, I'm not saying what they're going to do, but if they do, call them on it.
Yes.
Because look at where globally, worldwide, reparations are paid. It needs to repair.
Yes.
It needs to advance people to be level the playing field, give all that human talent, not to have it lost.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I love talking to you, Ali. We could talk forever because I feel like I'm learning something. Oftentimes I talk a lot on my own. I do a lot of research, but I also listen to a lot of people. And I have a brilliant correspondent. Her name is 00. And she's with the National Black Wall Street Project. That's the president and CEO is a Reverend Tony Pierce of the National Black Wall Street Project. And it's all about getting reparations to advance. I know as a society of usually black men, people want to ask us, do you play sports? Do you play football, basketball, or baseball? And as we close with this, it's about vibration. The NFL, if you notice, at the end of every end zone, it says end racism. At the other goalpost, it says it takes all of us. It may as well say reparations because that's how you end racism. The Homestead Act, that was very racist. It gave over 276 million acres of land to white Americans and even white Europeans in 1862 and 1863. That's created the tremendous wealth gap. It's never been addressed. I don't need an apology. We deserve our money. And they're saying in racism, but shouldn't they say reparations? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes complete sense to have your economics and your resources, because that's what provides us and everyone the opportunity to develop the most.
Yes.
With absolute resources, poverty is a crime perpetrated by the economic system of today. Yes. I'm going to repeat that. Yes. Poverty is a crime perpetrated by the economic system of today. If we look at just resources, we have enough resources for everyone.
Yes.
And when you have integrity of heart, when you really understand that, and you have empathy for all humanity, then we can move forward for all, because all the talent that's being lost, that people, the cure for cancer probably might be in that impoverished kid on the corner who never gets the chance.
Yes.
They never get to explore so many of these people from all ethnic groups, you know?
Yeah.
Just because of lack of resources.
Yes.
You know, while continually this last guy gave up, put the national debt, doubled the national debt by giving a tax break, yet that same lack of integrity in our representation will not just end it. Just say, well, that was done last time. We're ending it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not that difficult. It's not complicated.
I agree with you.
But there's no integrity.
I agree with you very much so. I keep going. We're going into double overtime now because I want to close. I want to close with it. You know, but sometimes you ever have when you're growing up. You know how Mama's getting in the kitchen and she cooking the collard greens. And she got the cornbread in the oven. She got the collard greens on the stove, and then she even got some ribs in the oven too. And when you walk in the house, doesn't it smell good? You just want to eat it, right? And then you walk into the kitchen and you don't wash your hands. Your mama said, "Go and wash your hands, boy." You know that feeling. That's how I feel talking to you. I want those collard greens. I want that meat, and I want my cornbread. So after we're going to finish off with the collard greens and the meat and the cornbread, you open up being from the East Coast and in the Boston region. And I want to close because I want more athletes. I love what Deion Sanders is doing to help black men get jobs. But I also want our white brethren, because it takes all of us to open up the conversation that reparations is real. It's not something that's made up. The whole world's talking about it. Jaylen Brown, the Boston Celtics, they agreed to a 5-year, $304 million contract extension. And Jaylen Brown plays for the Boston Celtics, just like the late Bill Russell played for the Boston Celtics. Now, Bill Russell didn't get $300 million, but he did win 11 championships in 13 years. And you talked about some of the heartache you had growing up in the Boston school district. Jaylen Brown was asked about what he's going to do with all that money. The average athlete might say, "Oh, I'm going to buy a yacht. Oh, I'm going to buy more Bentleys. I'm going to go buy more mansions." What Jaylen Brown said is something that touched my heart. Jaylen Brown said, "I'm going to bring the Black Wall Street to Boston." Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I didn't know that, so this makes my heart glad. I got goosebumps over here just hearing that, because as you were telling that to the public, I was thinking what should be done is you create funds, you create trust funds, you create wealth funds.
Yeah.
You know, you create your own economic system, because it's not yours, but you're gonna target and focus on a certain market group.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know, and don't be dependent. I know that there are money projects out there.
Yeah.
And for people to even know that if you have X amount of dollars, and I can think of a bank like Allianz in Europe and some of these older banks, Deutsche Bank.
Yeah.
Do you know if you certain funds, they'll pay you 40% per annum if you leave the money? Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know that.
Because these are the best kept secrets.
Say that
you
again.
can be able to buy in. You can get 40%, 30% on your money through insurance products that are just financial products if you can buy in at the right level. And there's these old European banks, they pay it out. Do you realize just the interest alone for what they can solve?
Oh, my goodness.
If every single professional athlete who had a heart, I'm not going to say label them with these stupid labels,
right,
but had a human heart that really had empathy. So look, I don't need all this money. I can use tax wrote off. I'm going to dump $10 million into that fund, into a fund.
Yes.
That would be a multi-billion-dollar fund, just there alone.
Wow.
If every corporate executive who had an affinity heart said, I'm going to dump $10 million. And you take that fund and you put it with one of these institutions like Allianz in Europe or Deutsche Bank or any of these people that have these certain funds at a certain time.
Yes.
And the interest alone, it would be a trust fund, right? The interest alone would pay for all the poor to go to college. The interest alone would pay for the housing. So we have, even in the current predatory system, you could make it work.
Wow.
So the question is why? And it's not working because there are some sick, inhuman people who all they care about is themselves and having power. Yeah. And they're destructive. The same people who had that same attitude is why Hitler came to power, why colonialism lasted as long as it did.
Yeah.
Until some people of all walks of life got a bit of heart. So that's why I keep going back to integrity, because that's very definable. That's why I wrote the book. It will be out soon, beginning of next year, called The Integrity Trinity.
That's beautiful.
And it's so important that we infuse that back into our society. That's how I believe we'll regain our humanity and push people towards more empathy.
Wow.
These discussions.
I want to give that a standing round of applause. Talking to the great Ali D'Souza, and also an author, a philanthropist, erudite man, talks about sports, politics. We can really do it all. We don't have to be pigeonholed and to just yell. You know how we haven't yelled at each other? You know, I didn't yell at you about I can cook a better steak than you, but I think I can. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not a mediator. Yeah, I bet you can, I bet I can make you a good smoothie, though.
I had a smoothie this morning, and I still feel so much energy, and even went on a bike ride over here in Northern California. Before I close with you, we're in double overtime now. We got about 7 minutes left. I want to just take some time to edify you. Where can people, because whether it's the clergy, we need to get the clergy involved in reparations. They ask for the tithe. Could you imagine if T.D. Jakes talked on reparations, if Joel Osteen talked on reparations, if all of our clergy that want to help people get to heaven would talk about the biggest sin this country has ever committed? If they talked on reparations, now the Jesuits are behind it with Georgetown, that must embolden some of our pastors and bishops, sir. Your thoughts?
I would hope so, because I don't understand the incongruency of the so-called church in this country with what they support with what they claim Christ said and his message. There's no matching at all. As a matter of fact, it's like your fault if you're poor. It's your fault if you're homeless. It's your fault if anything is not going wrong with your life, and they don't want to do the, here by the grace of God, go on.
Yep, by the grace of God. That's something that I'm going to have to end on, because I appreciate you, but I also have a time crunch. It's almost like, I told you, anyone listening, you walk into the kitchen, Mama's got the collard greens on the stove, she got that chicken in the oven or the barbecue in the oven and that cornbread, and it smells so good, you forget to even wash your hands before you go taste it. She said, wash your hands first. I know that's happened to you also, Ali. Your thoughts?
Well, I think you're the big C, because the C stands for cornbread. That's why I think you're the big C. I intuited something out on you. The one thing I'm not a soul food lover, but I love the cornbread, man.
Yeah, I love the cornbread.
I love the cornbread.
Well, we're gonna have to sit down and break some cornbread if that makes sense to you. Talking to Ali D'Souza, biographer, filmmaker, writer, author, philanthropist. Really do appreciate you. I'm going to have to get you on the road, because we're going to have reparations. As I always tell Brother Aleem that introduced me to you, when I say reparations now, reparations forever. I really do appreciate you, sir. Thanks for coming on Big C Sports. I'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you so much, Big C. Just a quick shout out. If people want to reach out to me, I'm easy to get if they go to D'Souza, DESOUSA experience.com. It's about my fine art, but there's a way to reach out to me for anything through that, DeSouzaExperience.com. And hey, take a look at my vibrational and frequency out while you're there.
Man,
it's changing the world.
You've been vibrating on the Big C Sports podcast. I really do appreciate you. I'll catch you down the road. That's Mr. Ali D'Souza, a brilliant man. Listen to the show and tell a friend. Really do appreciate you. I want to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, Back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 28 podcast applications all across the universe. Really appreciate that. I love paying homage on every show to my beautiful family legacy, especially talking about Mama's cornbread. I appreciate my mother's side of the family. My great-grandmother called her Mama, a beautiful, loving, kind woman. My great-grandfather called him Pop, just a beautiful man. He was a former Negro League baseball player, and also a lot of great things, can fix anything, planes, trains, and automobiles. My beautiful grandmother called her Mud Deer, a beautiful, loving, kind woman, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. My beautiful grandfather Hezekiah, another wonderful person. Really do appreciate him. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. Then they can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Not only a great cook, started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Give my mama some praise. Love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then on my father's side, my grandfather called him Albert Curry. He was a pastor. He had 2 churches in Oakland, built the 3rd one in Central California with his own hands, but he also had 2 gas stations in Oakland. But most importantly, he owned 40 acres of land. Like the Emancipation Proclamation, really do appreciate him. My beautiful grandmother, Alberta Curry, walking through a hallway. She worked with my grandfather with the churches, also the gas station. But in her hallway one day, I was on my way to get some, what she thought was more cookies. She touched me in my forehead. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some more cookies?" I said, "What are you doing up? It's 10 o'clock. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "Are you going to get some more cookies?" I said, "Cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations." And I thought that was funny. And she said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." Really do appreciate her. Then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot chief mechanic, always making sure that airplanes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Really do appreciate my dad and love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd will speak, always saying go forward. Really do appreciate Todd. And then my beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. She also set up the very first interview for Big C Sports. And now I'm talking to a great man, Ali de Sousa. Really do appreciate him. But Daisy also plays soccer. She scored 6 goals in one game. It was Daisy for the kick, Daisy for the goal. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be, and now you're going to be a millionaire because reparations will happen. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. And then my beautiful handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. A college student, a senior, very smart, every day, a good man. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get newspapers to look up Big C Sports Podcast. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?" And a light bulb went off. And then one day Malcolm said, "Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say play Big C Sports." It was like the vibrations that Ali de Sousa just talked about. And that's before it was even on the air. Shortly after, you can find it on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. He vibrated it before I even know the great Ali de Sousa. You can Google his name. Really do appreciate him for being on Big C Sports Podcast. And then as I always tell you, Big C with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, always saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe. As I say on every show, thank you for following Big C Sports. If you're gonna drink, don't drive. If you're gonna drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off. But don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I said before, you know what's next. I just talked to Ali de Sousa about it. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, he said, "You float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. With all you got to use, how can you lose?" Ali said, "I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat because listening to Big C Sports makes me light on my feet. That's why I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee." And my beautiful mother always says, as I always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day. And now what I'm going to do, now you know what time it is. We're going to honor President Abraham Lincoln as they're going to do at the Republican convention tonight. He said reparations now, reparations forever. Let's say it one more time. What did Abraham Lincoln say? He said reparations now, reparations forever. At the United Nations in Georgetown, and Senator Rubio talking about it. Let's say it like you just won the game. Say reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. I hope that you have a super fantastic day.